The ATO is not just looking at what you say 3 years later. They'll look at the body of evidence, emails to and from banks, accountants, real estate agents, lawyers, and counsel. This is where the story either holds water or falls apart. When the ATO is asking questions, they usually already know most of the answers. I guess from here, I wonder whether or not in the next few years there will be an ATO amnesty. I do think there is one coming, and I am going to make a call. It's June 26, and I think that at some stage over the next 3 years, the ATO will undertake some sort of general amnesty. There's been no announcement. This is not a guarantee. This is just my view. I do think, however, the ATO is going to say to the taxpayer, come forward, confess your sins, amend prior year tax returns, and if you do that by a certain date, we'll be gentle on interest and penalties. Now, why would they do that? Over the last many years, we've seen the groundswell of data that the ATO has been gathering from everywhere. They haven't been collecting that data for fun. They're collecting it so they can undertake their data matching operations. They want to compare what they know against what's been reported in your tax returns. I guess what will they be looking for? Firstly, the obvious and easiest thing are property sales. Has the sale been reported correctly? Because this is where people can come unstuck. Sometimes they don't completely miss the capital gain, but when they do report it, they get the timeline wrong. Another example are other taxable sales: shares, managed funds, crypto. If something has been bought and sold, the ATO is increasingly likely to have some kind of data trail. Not necessarily perfect data, but enough to ask questions. Third, and this is really important, intention. Has something changed from revenue to capital or capital to revenue? For example, did you buy a property as a long-term investment, but later your intention changed and became part of a development or profit-making plan? This really matters because the tax treatment can change depending on the facts. And the ATO is not just looking at what you say 3 years later. They'll look at the body of evidence, emails to and from banks, accountants, real estate agents, lawyers, and counsel. This is where the story either holds water or falls apart. The fourth thing we need to consider is worldwide income. If you're an Australian resident taxpayer, the starting point is that your worldwide income needs to be reported. All types of income. Yes, foreign tax credits might apply, but the income itself needs to be reported. Another important issue that we're seeing more of are employee shares. And things can get messy quickly. If someone worked overseas and they were granted employee shares or rights while they were a non-resident, then they moved to Australia. Later, those shares or rights vest while they're an Australian resident taxpayer. The calculation is not straightforward. Record keeping and timelines are extremely important. Another big one from the ATO's perspective is interest apportionment. You might have started off a loan for one purpose. Then later it becomes mixed, part investment, part private. Maybe there was a refinance. Once a loan has a split purpose, the interest needs to be apportioned properly, and the best time to set that calculation up is at the start. Should you be worried? Well, if you generally do the right thing, then no, it shouldn't be any dramas at all. But it all comes back to the record keeping. Boring, but important. Make your notes. Keep a timeline of events. Save email correspondence and all necessary documents and supporting evidence. Save anything that explains what happened when. This all paints a very clear picture of what you did and why. I'm very conscious that I think a lot of people get the ATO slightly wrong. The ATO does get a bad rap, but in my experience, they're usually pretty good to deal with when you have nothing to hide and you have sound reasoning and records as to why you have done something. One thing to bear in mind, however, is that when the ATO is asking questions, they usually already know most of the answers. So be straight up with them. If you've made a mistake, say so. If the records are a bit messy, say so. My view is that there will be a general amnesty in the next few years, and the people who put their hand up may get a softer landing. If the ATO does come knocking, amnesty or not, with detailed notes, supporting documents, and a clear timeline prepared at the time, not 3 years later from memory, you'll be good as gold.